Hi, I'm Michele Cooper, and I'm going to make a watercolor painting from this photograph of mine. It's a flooded field in springtime, and you can see that I've already made my value study. I'm going to start out with somewhat of an unconventional method. In watercolor, you usually start out with your lights, and then you go toward your darks by getting increasingly darker and darker values, but since most of the painting is light, and I do have these strong darks that I want to express in the middle ground and the background, I'm going to paint the darks first. I've mixed up some raw sienna or yellow ochre, either one will work, with Antwerp blue, and I'm just using a sumi brush to put in some calligraphic sort of shapes here, and a mid-tone over in here. I'll rinse out my brush, add some yellow ochre or raw sienna, and then connect these two sections with a light mid-tone. I'm copying my value study more than the photograph. Just preparing for some variations of warm and cool color and light midtones and darks. And then maybe straighten out the edge here where the horizon is. Put some fields down in here like this. Leave some room in the back here for a few buildings, maybe. Farm buildings. Make sure that this value is not as dark as this value. I have to wait for this to dry before I can put in the background headland. Alright, now let's see a little bit of blue back in here like this. The next thing I have to do, rinse out my brush and get a nice kind of yellow-green coming into the fields, and I have to make sure that I also leave some area for the flooded field, for the water. So I'm leaving more white than I usually would, just because I can come back and then cover it up, and I don't want to connect too much to these darks that are still wet either. So there's permanent yellow deep. Add just a little bit of the leftover green from the background. Okay, so now everything's been allowed to dry, and I'm going to come back in with a wash of very pale value of dioxazine purple mixed with manganese blue. I paint it right over everything in the background so we can get kind of a misty atmosphere. Then I'm going to take that wash and I'm going to make sure that I get some of the reflection from the sky into my fields here. Okay, now we have to let this dry so we can superimpose the field over the foreground.